Someone messaged me last week and said, "Tyson, I finally logged into my Social Security account, looked at my statement, and honestly, I was disappointed. Is there anything I can actually do to increase that number?" And that question matters more than most people realize. Because if you've been on this channel for a while, you already know how I feel about guaranteed income in retirement. For the vast majority of people watching right now, Social Security is going to be the single largest, most reliable, inflation-protected paycheck you receive for the rest of your life. So here's the good news. The answer to that question is yes. There are real, legitimate strategies that can increase your benefit, some of them worth hundreds of dollars a month for the rest of your life. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how the Social Security Administration calculates your check, and 5 specific ways you can influence that number. If you stick around, you'll genuinely know more about how this system works than most people who call themselves financial professionals. I'm Tyson, and this channel exists for one reason: helping you retire without worrying about money. Let's get into it. How Social Security actually calculates your benefit. Before we talk about the 5 strategies, I want to walk you through how your benefit is actually built. Once you understand the machinery behind the number, every strategy I mention later is going to click into place. If you already know this part cold, I'll drop timestamps in the description so you can skip ahead. But I'd encourage you to stick with me, because there are a few details even long-time viewers miss. Step 1. Your taxable earnings are capped every year. Every year you work, the Social Security Administration logs your earnings. But there's a ceiling, a maximum amount of income that's subject to Social Security tax in any given year. For 2026, that ceiling sits at $184,500. In 2025, it was $176,100. That cap moves upward almost every year to track wage growth. Go back to 1990, and the cap was around $51,000. In the year 2000, it was roughly $76,000. So if you earn $250,000 this year, only the first $184,500 counts toward your Social Security record, and that's the only portion taxed for Social Security purposes. Everything above that cap is completely ignored by the formula. Step 2. Your past earnings get adjusted for inflation. This is the part almost nobody knows about. The government doesn't just look at your raw paycheck history. They index it, meaning they adjust older earnings up to reflect today's purchasing power, using something called the National Average Wage Index. So, if you earned $30,000 back in the mid-1990s, that number might get indexed up to something like $65,000 to $70,000 in today's terms, because $30,000 bought a lot more back then. One important nuance: indexing stops at age 60. Any income you earn after age 60 is counted at its literal dollar value, no adjustment. That actually works in your favor if you're still earning strong income in your 60s, because those raw dollars are often high enough to bump out lower indexed years from earlier in your career. Step 3. They select your highest 35 years of indexed earnings. This is where things get interesting and where a lot of people unknowingly lose money. After indexing everything, the SSA pulls your 35 highest earning years. Not your most recent 35 years, not consecutive years, your best 35, period. If you've worked more than 35 years, this works in your favor. Your weakest years simply get dropped from the average. But if you've worked fewer than 35 years, the SSA plugs in a 0 for every missing year, and those zeros get averaged right in with everything else. Work only 30 years, and you're carrying 5 zeros into your calculation, which drags your average down significantly. This shows up constantly with business owners who paid themselves nothing in the early years, or people who stepped away from the workforce to raise a family or take an extended break. Step 4. They calculate your average indexed monthly earnings, or AIME. Once your top 35 years are locked in, the SSA adds them together and divides by 420. That's 35 years times 12 months. That gives you your AIME. Think of this as your adjusted monthly average income across your best working years. Say your top 35 indexed years totaled $2.1 million. Divide that by 420, and your AIME comes out to $5,000 a month. That's not your benefit yet. It's just the starting input for the next step. Step 5. The benefit formula. Bend points. This is where the real magic happens, and it's the piece almost nobody outside the industry has ever heard of. The SSA runs your AIME through a progressive formula using what are called bend points. These are dollar thresholds that change every year. Here's how it works. The first slice of your AIME up to the first bend point gets replaced at 90%. The next slice, between the first and second bend point, gets replaced at 32%. Anything above the second bend point gets replaced at just 15%. For 2025, the first bend point was $1,226. The second was $7,391. Let's run the math with our $5,000 AIME example. The first $1,226 is multiplied by 90%, giving you $1,103. The remaining $3,774, the gap between $1,226 and $5,000, is multiplied by 32%, giving you roughly $1,208. Since our example never reaches the second bend point, there's nothing taxed at the 15% tier. Add those two pieces together and you land on a primary insurance amount, or PIA, of roughly $2,311 a month at full retirement age. Here's why this matters. This formula is intentionally progressive. Lower earners get a much larger percentage of their income replaced than high earners do. Someone with a $1,000 AIME gets 90 cents on the dollar replaced. Someone with an $8,000 AIME only gets 15 cents on the dollar replaced above that second bend point. That's by design. Social Security is meant to act as a stronger safety net for lower-income workers, and it's exactly why high earners can't rely on Social Security alone to fund their retirement lifestyle. Step 6. Timing changes everything. Your PIA is what you'd receive at full retirement age, typically 66 to 67, depending on your birth year. Claim earlier and your check is permanently reduced. Claim at 62, the earliest possible age, and you're looking at roughly a 30% permanent cut. Delay past full retirement age, and your benefit grows by about 8% a year, all the way until age 70. After 70, the growth stops. There is zero benefit to waiting past that point. On top of all this, once you're receiving benefits, they get adjusted annually for inflation through the cost of living adjustment, or COLA. So a 3% inflation year should translate into roughly a 3% bump in your check. Put it all together, and your benefit boils down to three things: how much you earned, how many years you worked, and when you decide to claim. That's exactly the framework the next 5 strategies live inside. The 5 strategies. Strategy number 1, delay your claim. This is the strategy most of you have already heard of, but it remains the single most powerful lever available to most people. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, you're locking in roughly a 30% permanent reduction. Delay instead all the way to 70 and your check grows by roughly 8% every single year past full retirement age. Let's put real numbers on it. Say your PIA, your benefit at full retirement age, is $2,500 a month. Claim at 62 and that drops to around $1,750. Delay to 70 and that same benefit climbs to roughly $3,100 a month. That's nearly $1,400 more every single month for the rest of your life, and that's before COLA increases stack on top of it year after year. Now, I want to be upfront. Delaying isn't the right move for everyone. If you're in poor health, need the income immediately, or have other factors at play, claiming earlier can absolutely be the smarter decision. But if you're in reasonably good health and have other assets to bridge the gap, delaying is one of the most effective ways to lock in guaranteed, inflation-protected income for life. Strategy number 2, work at least 35 years. Now that you understand the mechanics from Section 1, this one should make immediate sense. Remember, the SSA averages your highest 35 years of indexed earnings. Work fewer than 35 years, and zeros get plugged into the gaps, dragging your average down. If you've worked, say, 30 years, you're carrying 5 zeros into your final number. I see this constantly with entrepreneurs who paid themselves little to nothing in their early startup years, or people who took extended career breaks. If you're in your late 50s or early 60s with only 28 to 30 working years on record, replacing even 1 or 2 of those zeros with real income can meaningfully bump your monthly check. That said, this isn't universal advice. If your 0 years happened because you stayed home to raise children and you're married, you may qualify for a spousal benefit worth up to 50% of your spouse's PIA, which could outweigh whatever extra you'd gain from working a few more years. It's worth running the numbers for your specific situation rather than assuming more working years automatically means a bigger check. Strategy number 3, increase your earnings in your remaining working years. I know what you're thinking, easier said than done. But stick with me, because there's real nuance here. Your benefit is driven by your earnings history, so higher income during your working years directly raises your AIME, and therefore your final benefit. Remember the cap, though. In 2026, only the first $184,500 of annual income counts toward your Social Security calculation. Earnings above that cap don't move the needle at all. But most people aren't anywhere near that cap, so this strategy still applies to the majority of you. Here's the practical version. If you're still working in your 50s or 60s and currently earning more than you did earlier in your career, those higher earning years start replacing your lowest earning years in the 35-year average. Say one of your early indexed years shows $30,000, and you're now earning $90,000 to $100,000. That new year replaces the $30,000 year in the formula, pulling your AIME upward. It won't be a massive jump from a single year, but stacked over several years, it adds up to a noticeably higher monthly check. Strategy number 4. Coordinate spousal and survivor benefits. This is a strategy I talk about often, and for good reason. If you're married, your claiming decision isn't just about you. It's a household decision, and the order in which each spouse claims can shift your total lifetime household benefit substantially. Here's the spousal piece. If one spouse earns significantly more than the other, the lower earning spouse can qualify for a benefit worth up to 50% of the higher earner's PIA, but only the full 50% if they wait until their own full retirement age to claim it. Claim spousal benefits early, and that percentage shrinks too. Example: if the higher earner has a $3,000 PIA, the lower earner could receive up to $1,500 a month based on that spouse's record, even if their own individual earnings record would have produced less. A common approach we see work well. The lower earning spouse claims a bit earlier to bring some income into the household, while the higher earning spouse delays as long as possible, ideally to 70. Now here's the layer that trips people up: the survivor benefit. When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse doesn't get both benefits, they get the higher of the two. So if the higher earning spouse delayed to 70 and locked in a $3,700 monthly benefit, and the surviving spouse was only receiving $1,200 a month on their own record, that survivor automatically steps up to the full $3,700 a month for the rest of their life. That's a massive shift in lifetime income, which is exactly why, in many households, the optimal strategy is having the higher earner delay as long as possible to maximize that survivor benefit, while the lower earner claims earlier to keep some cash flow moving. There are exceptions: health issues, Roth conversion strategies, big age gaps between spouses, but the core message is this: don't make your claiming decision in isolation. Sit down and look at both benefit statements together, as a team. Strategy number 5. Check your earnings record for errors. This one flies under the radar, and it can genuinely cost people thousands of dollars over a lifetime if it's missed. The SSA keeps a running record of every year you've worked, and yes, sometimes that record has mistakes. Billions of dollars in wages have historically gone unmatched to the correct individual's earnings record. If even one high-earning year is missing or understated in your file, your lifetime benefit takes a hit, and you'd never know unless you actually checked. Here's what to do. Go to ssa.gov, create an account if you haven't already, and pull up your Social Security statement. Review your full earnings history year by year. If you want to be thorough, cross-check it against old tax returns or W-2s. The further back an error goes, the harder it can be to fix, since you'll need documentation, but it is absolutely correctable if you catch it in time. Closing/call to action. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. None of these 5 strategies exist in a vacuum. Your Social Security decision is one piece of a much bigger retirement plan, one that includes your taxes, your investment accounts, your health, your spouse's situation, and your overall goals. If Roth conversions are part of your plan, both spouses delaying might make sense. If health is a concern, claiming earlier might be the right call. There is no universal answer, and I'd be cautious of anyone, myself included, who tells you there's one correct age to claim for everyone. One size does not fit all. My honest recommendation? Take the time to actually run your own numbers, and ideally, sit down with a financial planner who can model out different scenarios specific to your situation. If that's a step you're ready for, or you just want to experiment with the numbers yourself first, I've got a link in the description where you can try the same retirement planning software I use with my own clients. And if this video was helpful, my next recommendation is the one right here, where I break down exactly when you should claim Social Security based on your specific situation. I'll see you in that one.